The question of evolution of Upanyasam, I want to get a perspective, Ungalodia perspective on how you think it has evolved over a period of say 40-50 years. And more importantly, how do you think it will evolve in the next 20-30 years in terms of the younger crop of people coming up? Is there, because there is a sense that, I mean, Munadi, probably 10 years ago, there might have been a sense that, you know, the number of people who are doing Upanyasam has reduced, but I think of late, especially in the digital age, in the last 5 to 10 years, we are seeing a lot of, some positive, developments where younger people are picking it up. There's more access, especially in rural areas, people can view your videos and things like that. So perspective on that would really help.
The evolution has been fairly, I wouldn't call it drastic, has been very simple. You can see some changes but not large ones. So the content is probably the same. So if you kind of see the content delivered by the Doyen Sengalipuram Anantarama Dikshitar to what is being rendered today, the content is quite the same. But probably the style has changed. That's because in the 1960s and 70s, when there was not so much of this technology that we speak today, people were wanting to understand the emotion behind the content. So, it's, as a speaker, I would end up pepping my audience on the emotion quotient. So, typically it would be like an Anantarama Dikshitar who says, Guruvayirappan appo vandu andha edathila kettu sonnalam adha. So as he climbs, so will the emotion in the audience also rise. Probably as a speaker, there was no need for him to take up questions in his very own content. He would not ask a question as to how many of you feel that what Rama did to Sita was right. He would never ask this question to his audience because it was a general observation that whatever has happened in Ramayana is correct. There is no right for one to question. But in the last few years, I can't comment about others. Personally, I have believed that when we question ourselves and we also fairly raise questions in the audience's mind, it works. Because there are a lot of questions in the minds of people. They have it in their mind. And the moment I speak out those questions, there is a connect that they establish with me. Oh, this man also thinks like me. He has a similar question as me. So let me get glued to the seat and check what answer he has to give. So this evolution of questioning and answering is something that I feel the audience prefers these days. Second thing, of course, you did touch upon the fact that you find a large amount of people showing interest to listening content either in privacy in their houses through YouTube or through large mass gatherings. I feel that the reason could be they feel that the person who's speaking hasn't come up to this profession because he couldn't find anything else. Because that was always a thought. Okay, you don't fetch any other profession, you're not employed anywhere, and in those days the concept of a government job existed. So people will never get married. Such people will never get married because all that he does is just narrate stories. But today people see it as an art form. People see that the person has some talent in him to make his audience stay there in the audience for 2.5 hours straight. It's like a perfect Bollywood movie, 2.5 hours. And the education profile of people who are giving these days, there are very few. The education profile that you see of people who most masses know, they're all either chartered accountants, they're engineers, there are doctors. So they're quite safe and convinced that this person is just not going to blabber. He is a person who has undergone the same pain as me, and he's got enlightenment either after undergoing this education or he's just going to speak. So this awareness is largely due to the profile of the speakers, the content which is made contemporary, and also the technology. For instance, I wouldn't say that a youngster of 20 or 25 will want to come to my lecture straight. So if his parents who happen to attend my lectures go and tell that there's a person called Dushyanth who's speaking, the first thing that the person does is check on YouTube. Listen for 5 minutes. Not bad. The content is decent. He's not a bad speaker. Then they start listening more and they may want to attend later. So it's just not listening in the mass and then going to the YouTube. It is the other way around. They check out there and they come. It's like sampling, a placebo.
Great. That's interesting. So the audience that comes to your events, I mean, as part of this evolution, from what I have noticed in the couple of concerts that I've attended, is one is the group that you just mentioned about, 25, 30-year-olds who are very keen and, within our age group. Another large section are old people who are probably, retired or they're in their 50s and 60s. So, Neenga, when you speak about, within our age group and a lot of these, pretty challenging and analytical and deep topics, you mentioned about moksha and all these things. So, Adalam Pesumode, there's also a delicate balance that you need to gain their confidence also, in the sense that நீங்க சொல்றது வந்து அவளுக்கு that is it needs to come across as someone who's refined and matured spiritually to communicate that. And also another quick add-on to that is, how do you also maintain the balance between humor and yet retaining the essence of the subject?
With respect to the elderly population who attend to lectures such as this, not just my lecture, a lot of lectures of others, I have always felt, and I'm sure this is a true feeling as well, that my audience are not coming to just learn because they are ignorant. A lot of them are so well read. They have written books. They have drafted such engaging articles on religion, on theology, on philosophy, that they could be better speakers than me if they were given a chance. But the beauty is, there's content on one side which people possess, but second comes the major translation process, which is the art of delivery. So that is where a lot of them, when I discuss, their content is so good, but they say that I may not know the art. So when I speak on the dais, I should not, and I have never assumed that my audience is ignorant, they know nothing and I can take them for a ride. So that's not my assumption. But when it comes to the content, I keep telling people that just because I speak on the Visishta Advaita philosophy or quote certain works of the Advaita philosophy, don't ever assume that I have been an enlightened person or as a person I have realized the Supreme Being. Nothing of it. Of course, I have a belief that there exists God. I have a belief that our scriptures are very, very selfless in nature. Our rishis were. I have absolute belief in them. But I have a belief that I am nowhere close to the hour of realization. And I'm pretty much to catch a 2.5-hour movie this weekend with my friends. And last week I went to a stand-up comedy. So I know that all this entertainment that I see is a part of my life, and a lot of my audience see my lectures as infotainment. That is where the concept of humor comes. So I personally feel in the current day that we are, where every child, if I were a child at this stage now, I will also get glued to an iPad or I cannot keep harping on the very fact that they are always with their gadgets. If I were a child, I see my grandparents sitting with their gadgets, so why should a child not? So you just can't call them distractions, but you can call them as elements which don't give them complete focus on one particular area. So if I don't make my lectures interesting and I just make them content oriented, the book says this, I'm going to speak this, then might as well they read the book. So why would they come to my lecture? They come to the lecture, first they may not have time to read the book, they may not know which is the right form of the book, right kind of the book. Third, they also want to understand the content in an engaging fashion. And I consciously don't take any efforts to craft 10 jokes and then intersperse them in my lectures. It just so happens that I speak my mind out, and that may have some jokes inadvertently and people like them. Of course, there is one section, Sriram, which feels that this person is very jovial, he's meant to be a stand-up comedian rather than a speaker. Of course, they are entitled to their opinion, but I don't craft my speaking technology or way based on feeling that this is the best way to do. This is my style. People who like my style are of course welcome, and people who don't like my style follow other speakers, which is absolutely their freedom.
Right. So that is also so the balance is also important in your discourse, and also the way you share your lectures. For example, your Vishnu Sahasranama series, which I do follow. The unique thing about it is for the online audience, it comes as a continuation of lectures across board, and it makes it very interesting. And for your and you also maintain that when you are delivering the lectures in different areas. So these kind of innovative kind of things, which are simple but effective. So those are some of the strategies that you need to keep, or some ideas that you need to keep looking at to engage your audience, right? I mean, that is a process, constant process you do.
Yeah, that's a conscious effort for the very reason. When I take up a single lecture, if it's a lecture in Silo, I speak about Hanuman for 2 hours. I would still record that, audio record, video record, but I will still get another chance to speak on Hanuman in the next month. So if I miss this opportunity, I still have an opportunity. Take up Vishnu Sahasranamam, a common panacea that we have found for all our mental and physical stress all these years for generations together. So Sahasranamam itself indicates there are 1,000 names. And people have been reciting those names with so much of love, but a lot of them want to know what goes behind this name. So my Acharya, one of my 5 Acharyas, Karunakar Acharya, he is a wonderful speaker, an engaging speaker. So he came up with this series where he explains every name with an anecdote so that people remember the anecdote, take the essence of that anecdote and are able to connect to the meaning of that name. So imagine there is an anecdote to every name in the 1,000 names. So if I miss the opportunity to audio or video record it, it literally takes 180 hours to render 1,000 names based lectures, and this will easily take 2.5 years. If I miss the opportunity to audio or video record, I have to wait for another set of 2.5 years. So it's a conscious effort that I do with a lot of selfishness, that I have to preserve the content at one day or the other. See, life is full of uncertainties, Sriram. What we get to see is my friend who's speaking to me till yesterday is no more today. So I just can't have a 50-year plan, long-term vision in me. So I speak, I record, the content is all saved. Now coming to if it's innovative, there were quite a few people in the Upanyasams field who caught this knack of recording a few years before me, but I am just trying to sustain it for quite some time, again because I feel that the entire world, the interested audience to my content cannot get together at one point in time and listen. They are at various geographies, various time zones. So why not give them this window opportunity to listen? So it doesn't take much money or effort to record a video, both audio and video, and it just takes efforts to upload it on net. So I feel that the content what Valmiki and Vyasa and all our Alvars and Acharyas have given to us is for free. None of them have sought a copyright or have made money out of it. So of course, since I've taken this up as a profession now for lectures, live lectures, I'm paid. But otherwise the content that goes into such cloud like YouTube and SoundCloud and so on is for free. So I am personally very elated when people listen to such lectures online, and I have absolutely no problem in somebody recording it and making money out of it, because the content is not mine. If at all somebody has to file a case against them, it's Valmiki